Hey Cycle friends, I'm Ryan. I'm one of the visiting instructors here at Cycle here at Fit in Midland. Before we get started reopening on Monday, the 18th, we wanted to give you all a quick video on how to set up your bike properly, just so that in the event that we, the instructors, can't be in here helping you, you have an idea of how to do that on your own. And then we are always welcome to double check things before class gets started to make sure you can ride safely and effectively as far as your bike setup is concerned. So the main thing that you'll want to do before and after class every single time is bike down your bike. You'll hear us say it time and again. We're reminding you of that so that you can be safe, but also so that we can just keep our community safe and healthy. So after you wipe down your bike, you'll come to the side, back by the saddle, and you'll notice that you have an adjustment knob behind the saddle and then right underneath the saddle. We'll start with the height of the saddle. So saddle height is adjusted by this knob on the very back. The knobs here are a twist system, so you twist the knob, and then once you twist, you can also pull it out. So it's a pin and a screw. So untwist, you'll pull it back. By pulling the knob back, you release the peg from the stem so you can lift and lower the saddle. And generally, we suggest that the saddle is right about even with your hip point. So sometimes that can be tricky if you're not quite certain where that is, but the easiest way to test is to come next to the saddle and just feel like where is my hip point and see if the saddle is about level. There are some other ways to verify that the height is what it needs to be, but this is the easiest one. So when you determine where that should be, you'll want to make sure that the peg goes in and then you'll re-secure the adjustment knob. It's not uncommon for those knobs to come untightened as class moves on, so you want to make sure that they're tight to start with. From there, we'll talk about the depth of the saddle. So you can untwist this one and then move forward and back to adjust the position of your hips once you're on the bike. The easiest way to measure where you should be basically is from your elbow out through your middle finger. So you'll pull your elbow back and you'll take your hand up towards the handles here. And you want about just like a forearm's distance there. Sometimes that measurement isn't always accurate, so you can always just adjust what feels better for you. When you handle that, you'll come up to the front of your bike here. You have a knob on the front of the handlebars and then one on top. The one on front lifts and lowers, the one on top takes your handles closer to you or pushes them away from you. To start with handlebar height, generally what we suggest is whatever is comfortable for your low back. So that can be where your handlebar is directly at the same height as your saddle, so they're in one line. For some people though, if you have low back trouble, we would recommend bumping up your handles one or two adjustments so that you're more upright as you ride in class. Again, you'll make sure your adjustment knob is tight before you do anything else. And then the same thing is true for your handlebar depth, so how close the handles are to you. For people who have longer arms or who enjoy more of a side body stretch, you can take your handles out. Typically though, we leave them at 0 or just like in a neutral position, because a lot of times that adjustment is kind of funky for people, so it depends on what feels best in your body. And to clip in, this is always the hardest part, but we're here to help you, of course. But generally, you have a clip on the bottom of your shoe, and that thing just goes right into the pedal, and you'll know that it's in when you hear a click. And then that's pretty technical. That's as technical as you can get in terms of how to describe that. But again, we're here to help you. So when you're on your bike, of course, if anything feels loose or you hear any clicking, you want to double check your adjustment knobs. But as you begin to pedal, you never want your leg to be fully extended at the bottom, and that's how you know that you've hit the right saddle height. So if you have a slight bend, a soft bend in your knee, perfect. Then if you bring your feet to parallel to the floor, you never want your forward knee to be past your big toe. So in alignment with your ankle or at most the midfoot, you're good to go on the saddle depth. When I take my hands out all the way long and I stand up and ride out of the saddle, I never want my knees to hit my handlebars. So that's another cue as far as how close or how far away they should be from you. And then lastly, hands come down to the corners. This is second position. We ride here quite frequently, or even hands all the way on top. As long as I have a soft bend in my elbows and my shoulders can be relaxed, I know that my handlebar depth is where it needs to be. So that's a very brief overview on how to set up your bike in terms of the adjustments up and down, forward and back, for your saddle and your handlebars. We talked briefly about how to clip in. If you can't nail it the first time, that's totally It's tricky, but once you start to figure it out, it gets really, really easy, and you'll be able to clip in and out with great, great ease. Again, if you have questions, you can always ask us before the start of class, but we wanted to give you this resource so that you know how to set up your bike, or at least you have an idea on how to set it up before we get started. That way we can streamline the process and make sure that we are moving safely and effectively, but also in a way that's healthy for our community as well as for ourselves as individuals. So if you have any questions, of course, please be sure to ask your instructor before the start of class. Again, before the start of class, that keeps us moving safely and effectively. And we are so excited to see you all in the studio this week, so we'll hope to see you soon.